CL 650 presents your source for leading-edge news and information on today's hottest products and services. This is Experts on Call.
Don't you know I heard it through the grapevine? Not much longer would you be mine, baby, I heard it.
And welcome to the show. This is Experts on Call. I'm Zach Spencer on CL 650. And today we're talking about looking after your strata. The show's called StrataLife. Key Pacific Property Management, along with a number of their trusted strata industry professionals, they're developing a resource for people to be connected and to get high-quality, reputable strata-related service providers. And that's why we call it StrataLife. And Drew Grout is our regular here. He's the Director of Strata Services from Key Pacific Property Management. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning.
And you've brought your two amigos with you. Gordon Lai, who is the Client Executive Vice President of CMW Insurance. Gordon, it's good to have you back.
Thank you very much.
All right. And joining us for the first time is Brett Johnson, President of Community Fire Prevention.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
And it's your first time, so we'll go easy on you.
Thanks very much.
Drew's an old hat. He comes in every time. So let's go around the horn here. And Drew, we'll start with you because Key Pacific Property Management, you are sort of the center of the wheel, right? Where people have a property management company that they use to run their building, and then you have all the spokes, which are the service providers like fire prevention and insurance. So explain how that works.
Yeah, so our strata managers work closely with the elected strata councils, and our company helps them administer their strata business. And that involves very much, connecting them with the likes of these two fellows here to help provide services to the strata. So, if you look at the strata councils as a board of directors, we're like executive assistants. We provide information, and we do some legwork to help them accomplish what they need to do. And
each unit or strata is uses their property management company to different levels, right? So some have just in a sort of your consultant, some you do everything for them, right?
Yes, we have just accounting only to full service.
Okay.
And the full service varies too.
All right, CMW Insurance. Gordon, you welcome back and explain how important insurance is. Now, we're not talking insurance for individual units. We're talking about the whole strata, right?
Correct. The whole strata. Well, it's important because it's legislated under the BC Strata Property Act that you have to have insurance. So number one is not even an option versus like, if someone owns a single detached home or a unit owner that says, I don't want my content insurance insured, they have that option. But it's legislated by law so that all strata corporation must carry proper insurance and very specific what type of insurance is required in there. And it's also to protect basically all the unit owners, right, in event of a loss.
All right, and that's perfect segue into Brett. So community fire prevention, I'm sure you work with insurance companies. I mean, you're there to make sure there isn't any claim, right? So what is it that you do in the buildings for a company like Key Pacific? They call you and say, hey, go to this building and do what for us?
So, I mean, the name says it all, fire prevention. We're there before something happens. Companies or stratas are legislated to have an annual inspection done. So we'll go through a building and we'll test the fire alarm systems, the sprinklers, emergency lighting and backflows, fire extinguishers and whatnot. But what we try and do is we're there to before something happens and to get into suites and check the fire alarm bells, make sure everything's going to operate on time. That's kind of us in a nutshell.
No, does the fire department do that? Because I have seen, for example, this building, right? I've seen the fire department walk through. So they do something as well, but that's separate, right?
Yeah, so we'll go through beforehand and we'll do the inspections and we'll generate reports to give to them. When a fire department comes through, they're looking more after housekeeping rules and stuff like that, making sure exits are kept clear, but we're the ones that are testing the actual equipment for them. And we're generating a report for the strata and for the fire department to make sure things are up to code and up to snuff.
Okay, so more questions to you in a moment. First, Gordon, we have our first question is about insurance. Our strata has an amenities room that residents can rent out for private functions. That's pretty common. Do you need extra insurance to protect the strata? Can we require the individuals to have their own insurance? So if somebody's going to have a party in there, somebody falls and breaks their arm or cracks their head, what happens?
From the products that, for what we provide in an insurance for the strata corporation, the strata corporation would be covered in the event of a loss, as you gave an example of, or in a lot of cases where we see is these parties, people have a birthday
Damage,
party,
yeah.
damage to the unit, or drink and drive, right? That's another thing. So the Strata Corporation is covered, but I think in cases like this is where you rent an amenities room, especially with this, holiday seasons coming, there's probably a good chance some alcohol is going to be involved. I think that, because it's a rental of the unit and that's a common area, that the Strata Corporation should, in the rental agreement, require those unit owners or the people renting it to carry some form of insurance, especially if they're going to be serving liquor, like a host liquor liability policy.
Now, if you have somebody's a unit owner and they have insurance, occupants insurance and some liability insurance, would that transfer to that common area if they're hosting a party there? It
actually would in certain cases, but there might be some limitations on the limits they carry and how they're hosting the party. For I think most personal lines, what we call personal insurance, would extend to your, personal use. It's like if you had a friend over for a beer and something happens, they wouldn't exclude that. But I think, for parties, it's hard to guess because some people throw parties and, it's like, if they're food and alcohol, it's all free, or some people may charge or split the expense. And I could see there's could be legal complication in the event of a loss if you don't have like a specific, say, host liquor or party policy for that.
Can you buy just like one day insurance for an event?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, usually it's like couple $100.
Right.
And a lot of people do it for weddings, actually, Zach. Like they have a wedding, they got like 300 guests coming, and to be safe, they'll buy a host liquor liability policy.
I learned something today. That's great. So if you're having a big party, it's not a bad idea to spend the money to make sure that if anything happens at the party, it's not just drinking, right?
Yes,
somebody could fall and crack their head or something.
Yeah, and I think the big reason for that is, one is you got a specific policy. Your limit's going to be higher. Usually they'll come with like a $2 or $5 million, and you have an option to go to a $10 million limit, because most homeowners are just going to just carry a general $1 million limit. And it sounds like a lot of money, but realistically, it's not. If someone's really injured and...
Well, we've seen those crazy news stories where there's, 50 people on a balcony and the balcony collapses and, stuff does happen, right?
It does.
I didn't know that existed. So there you go. That's the first thing I learned today. Good to know. All right. Next question. I'm a Strata Council member and my Strata as well. I'm a Strata Council member of my Strata as well. I sit on some subcommittees. How am I protected under the Strata's insurance policy? So this is another liability question, right?
Yeah.
So what's the answer to that one?
Well, as a subcommittee, they would be covered under two sections of the policy where really what they're looking at is from a liability, there's general liability, which is we call a commercial general liability policy, which is for any bodily injuries or property damage that may occur. So on a subcommittee, it could be, you make a decision to say fix or not fix a deck or delay it, and someone gets injured because the deck collapses. So they may sue, and they'll probably sue the Strata and things like that. So the individual would be covered under that if they're personally sued for the decision they've made not to do that, to do the repairs or delay the repairs. And also there's a directors and officers policy, which provides coverage for any financial loss someone's claiming as a third party claiming that as a result from them making a decision that,
their houses, their units worth less, right? Or
worth less, yeah.
So you mentioned that the provincial government says you have to have specific insurance. Is that one of them? Is the director's insurance part of that package?
Actually, the director's office insurance is an option.
Oh, I see.
It is not a mandate.
So, in your experience, how many Stratas have their directors covered?
From my experience, I would say probably 99%. I maybe oddly would see one that doesn't carry that. But most people making the placement of the insurance are directors, officers. I think the only exception where I see it that often that there's no coverage for that, it'll be like a duplex, fourplex, where they're
small,
very
group,
small, and they say, we're all involved in the decisions of making this, so we're not going to sue each other, so we really don't see this need for directors and officers. Okay,
the next question. I know our Strata's insurance has deductibles. Under what circumstances would it be responsible for some of or all of these deductibles? How can I protect myself?
That question really is, we actually don't assess the deductible of who's responsible. What happens is that when a claim comes in, we proceed with making a formal claim, and they pay out the thing. The deductible is really usually charged by the contractor, usually. So say restoration company involved, and it's charged to the Strata Corporation.
Strata pays it.
Yeah, and
Strata's required to pay it.
Yeah, so Drew. So so then Drew here would get this bill, and then Drew would usually the Strata Corporation, I think, because it's a common expense.
Yeah,
it pays it and then decides to whether there's a chargeback.
Yes, that's where it happens. The rest with the Strata Council, not with the insurer.
So you basically want to have, like, say it's flood damage. We've heard on this show many times,
Yeah.
water. So, and Fred will talk to that in a moment. But the water is there. You need to get it fixed up. You call the restoration company. You need to get it fixed. And then that bill goes to the Strata Council to pay the deductible. Then they figure out who's liable for it after the fact,
not so much liable, responsible.
Or responsible. Yeah, responsible.
And that's what they do. And 85% of Strata claims are water. Most of those are result in suite incidents, overflows, hose disconnections, a pipe leak.
Sprinkler heads.
Well, sprinkler heads. It depends on what causes the sprinkler head to go off. So at each claim event, deductibles can be paid, and the Strata Council will look at what happened and determine whether they are going to hold the homeowner responsible, in which case they seek to recover that deductible from them.
Okay, we are just getting started. We'll come back, Gordon, with more questions for you towards the end of the show about insurance. And our next go-around, we've had Drew speak to, overall how it works with a strata and Key Pacific Property Management. We'll get into the fire services providers and the community fires specialize in what they do when they go into a building and how they look after that. When we come back on StrataLife, right here on CL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CL 650.